Good morning, Singis and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Voices right here on WinFM 98.9. I am happy to be alive, I'm happy to be here, I'm happy to have this program yet again, another beautiful Friday. Today is the 18th day of June 2021, and I'm giving thanks to life. I have some very special guests joining me today on today's edition of Voices. And I would say now that none of them are shy, they are outspoken people, and they are excited to be on this program. And I too am excited to hear from them. I'll allow the Public Relations Officer, Miss Vesta Southwell. She's the Public Relations Officer at the National Emergency Management Agency, and she will just lead off the discussion for today. Before I bring in Miss Southwell, we have the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Miss Kebas, and she also serves as the chairperson for the Foreign Assistance National Disaster Subcommittee. Also on this program, we have Mrs. Eureka Lennon Petty, the planning officer at NEMA. Good morning, and thank you guys so much for accepting our invitation. Ms. Southwell?
Thank you so very much, Devonne, and good morning to everyone. We are thankful for this collaboration ongoing. It began, of course, with a conversation with Clive Bacchus, who invited us to present ongoing through our whatever mechanism, whatever system we wanted to put in place. And as we are smack dab in the hurricane season, we thought it was an opportune time for us to introduce to the public the chairpersons of the 10 subcommittees that make up the National Disaster Plan. You would, of course, have met with Mrs. Eureka Lennon Petty, who manages the subcommittees as part of her remit as planning officer at NEMA. And so she's on the program, as you've introduced as well. Miss Bass is is the first, I think, in this series. And I expect that this conversation will go very well because everyone knows Miss Bass is very eloquent. She expresses herself extremely clearly, and I know that she's going to do an absolutely fabulous job at this this conversation we are going to be having today. So, like I said initially, Mrs. Petty and myself are here to support any questions or any support that we need to give to the presentation being made by Miss Bass. I am sure we'll not need to do anything, but we are here for that reason.
Thank you, Ms. Abel. Thank you so much for that opening presentation. As I said before, we have in the program Ms. Kebas, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as Mrs. Eureka Lennon Petty, the Planning Officer at NEMA. If I can get a few words from Ms. Bass.
Good morning, Mr. Cornelius, and good morning to Ms. Vesta Southwell and Mrs. Eureka Lennon Petty. Thank you for inviting the Foreign Assistance Subcommittee to present this morning. We are happy to participate.
Awesome, and again, thank you guys so much for accepting our invitation. Mrs. Petty?
Good morning. Thanks once again, WinFM, for having us here on the program. Thank you, Ms. Bass, for joining us in one of the first of many series in preparation for the hurricane season.
Awesome. It is indeed a pleasure to have you. So we're going to start this conversation. It is just 7 minutes past the hour of 11 here in our studios at WinFM 98.9. And I am your host for today's edition of Voices, Devonne Cornelius. We're now going to hear from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Kebas. As I said before, Ms. Bas is the chairperson of the Foreign Assistance National Disaster Subcommittee. And this morning, we're going to take a look at disaster preparedness. As you know, we are in that season and we have to get ourselves prepared. And we're going to discuss some hurricane tips. Last, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cornelius. I'm not sure I can share any hurricane tips. I am sure that the qualified and competent personnel from NEMA would fill in that gap for me. However,
yes,
we are happy to be here as a Foreign Assistance Subcommittee participating in this conversation in relation to the 2021 hurricane season. As we are aware, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, released its 2021 Atlantic Hurricane Season Outlook. And they have advised us that they are predicting that there's a likelihood of 13 to 20 named storms with sustained winds of 39 miles, of at least 39 miles per hour. 6 to 10 of those are likely to become hurricanes, and 3 to 5 may become hurricanes of category 3 or higher. Now, those of us who recall what occurred in 2017 would not wish for any storm, any hurricane to exceed a category 3 or thereabout. We unfortunately experienced some of the effect of hurricanes Irma and Maria. And even though we were not directly hit, we saw what the sustained winds and rains did to us. So as part of the National Disaster Committee and as chair as the Foreign Assistance Subcommittee, we are pleased to participate and collaborate in this endeavor with NEMA. The Foreign Assistance Subcommittee, we have our responsibilities from the St. Kitts and Nevis National Disaster Plan, Part 2, where the terms of reference indicate that our responsibilities are divided into 3 subsections: pre-disaster, during, and after a hurricane. But before I go to those responsibilities, let me just highlight the membership or the composition of the Foreign Assistance Subcommittee. As listed, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs chairs this committee. We have a representative from the Cabinet in the person of the Cabinet Secretary, the Director General of the St. Kitts and Nevis Red Cross, representatives from relevant stakeholder ministries, including the Ministry of Finance and Sustainable Development, Tourism, and we also have some agencies, because we would realize that in preparing for a storm, it needs an all of society approach. And therefore, we also have representatives from regional and international organizations, such as the OAS, IECA, and NEMA sits on that committee as an ex officio member. And we also have a representative from Nevis. So you can see it is a broad cross-section of ministries and agencies in the society that we will depend on in order to fulfill our mandate as a Foreign Assistance Committee. So what are our responsibilities? As indicated, our responsibilities are taken from the National Disaster Plan and the terms of reference outlined in Part 2. Our general responsibilities, pre-disaster, we have to design procedures for requesting and receiving foreign assistance as a result of a disaster. We have to ensure that simulation exercises are developed and conducted in order to test the system prior to the impact of a storm, so that when it does occur, we know exactly how to respond. And thirdly, we are to assist in preparing, participating in, and assessing joint annual exercises with all response services and NEMA. You may be aware that we do sit on the National Emergency Operating Center in the event that this is called to come into existence by the Honorable Prime Minister. And therefore, we have direct contact with NEMA, who is responsible, who has the overarching responsibility for coordinating activities under the NEOC. During the storm, we are to coordinate with CDEMA through NEMA and donor partners in the case there is a need for foreign assistance after the emergency. And post-disaster, we are to ensure that all foreign missions and governments are updated on any disaster that may require external assistance. We are to ensure that short, medium, and long-term requests are made for assistance from foreign governments, agencies, and organizations, also through CDEMA and according to its regional coordination plan. And finally, we are to ensure that queries from abroad on the status of nationals and foreigners are adequately answered. So you see, Mr. Cornelius, that our responsibilities do not just kick in when we are impacted, but we are to prepare. So we have pre-disaster responsibilities, we have responsibilities during a disaster, and also after what happens. Now, of course, this plan is still in, it's to be revised, it's still being updated. And so there may be some gaps. And so we try to fill in as much as possible. In short, therefore, the Foreign Assistance Subcommittee, we act as that intermediary government agency that communicates with the external and the internal in order to bring about the necessary assistance that we require. We have bilateral partners throughout the world. A lot are based in Barbados, which is very nearby. In the event that we have to call on them, we do keep in contact throughout the year with our bilateral partners so that it doesn't appear that we are only coming to you for assistance. So we try to support as much as possible in the international arena. When they ask for support for candidatures, they may ask for support for their nationals, citizens. We are always very willing to facilitate where possible, because we understand that in the area of diplomacy, we have to have friends, and we must maintain a good and excellent relationship with our partners. We do not know when we will need them, when they will need us. And so the key is to keep in touch on a regular basis. And that is what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does consistently. I will pause here, Mr. Cornelius, for any questions you may wish to pose.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bass. It is 15 minutes past the hour of 12. We're going to take a short break to say thank you to our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion, and thereafter I'll pose some questions. Let us take this short break to say thank you to our sponsors. When we come back, we'll continue. Let's take this break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Cool. Energize your goals with Lucozade. Get it cool. Look under the cap. Find the code. Win it. Thousands in prizes. iPhones and TVs. Or win 30 grand US dollars for your goals. That's goals.
For a chance to win 30,000 US dollars. Purchase any Lucozade Energy promo bottle. Look under the cap and find the code to win iPhones, TVs, and free Lucozade for 30,000 US dollars to energize your goals. See website, social media, or press for details. Lucozade, taste the energy.
TDC Automotive is paying for you. Deposit? We're paying. 3-month installments? We're paying. Pay nothing for 3 months because we are paying. Take a moment, catch your breath, and roll out with ease. Save over $20,000 off your new Toyota Hiace because TDC Automotive is paying. Get your Toyota Hiace today. TDC Automotive, #1 for a reason. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Voices on WinFM 98.9. Yes, it's a beautiful Friday morning. We're having Voices here on WinFM 98.9. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those of you who tuned in late via whatever means, whether it be radio, via our website at www.winmediaskn.com or via our social media platforms, you are listening to, and we have here on our program today the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Kibas, and she also serves as the chairperson of the Foreign Assistance Disaster Subcommittee. We also have Vesta Southwell, Public Relations Officer at the National Emergency Management Agency, as well as that agency's planning officer, Mrs. Eureka Lennon-Petty. Again, thank you guys so much. So we're back, and I wanted to ask just a few questions specifically to you, Ms. Bass, and we will continue, of course, with Ms. Southwell and Mrs. Petty. Now, you spoke about the Foreign Affairs Ministry and some of the responsibilities the disaster subcommittee would have prior to a disaster, during a disaster, and after a disaster. And I was pleased to hear that here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we continue to maintain a relationship with our colleagues across the Caribbean region and, of course, in the international community. How has that been during the pandemic? Has it proven to be difficult with the challenges we're facing now as a result of COVID-19?
Just for clarification, are you asking me if it has been difficult to maintain the relationships during COVID-19?
Yes.
I would not say it has been difficult, because communication with our overseas partners continues even during the pandemic. Even though we are not able to travel or they are not able to come to us in person, we are very pleased that we have been able to utilize digital means to maintain contact with most of our bilateral partners. I am pleased to share the fact that the Honorable Minister has been able to convene bilateral meetings with his counterparts from various countries. He has spoken with his ministerial counterparts as well as their representatives, the country's representatives throughout the region and further afield. And so, even though I would say, yes, it is difficult in that you don't get an in-person conversation, we have still been able to maintain that important relationship, those important relationships virtually.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. My other question for you. Yes, we're in COVID-19 now, and we're faced with tremendous and different challenges. How has it been in terms of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs providing foreign assistance, in particular to St. Vincent and the Grenadines with their recent disaster?
Okay, thank you very much. I must remind that there is a committee that has been put in place for our response to the calamity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a representative on that committee in the person of Mr. Michael Penny, and we have been participating in meetings to respond to the situation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Initially, when the incident took place, of course, we would have sent a diplomatic note expressing the government's solidarity with the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I sit as a member of the Economic Union Forum for Foreign Affairs, where I meet regularly with my counterparts within the OECS. And together, I am currently chair. I penned a letter that went to the permanent secretary of Foreign Affairs, who is a member of that forum, expressing our solidarity with her as well as permanent secretaries of Foreign Affairs in the region. The ministry has been communicating via diplomatic channel with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in St. Vincent and the Grenadines with respect to how St. Kitts and Nevis will continue to respond to that dilemma.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. If I may ask as well, in particular to a natural disaster, whether it may be, I don't know, a hurricane or whatever, what is if you can explain in a nutshell, the procedure for non-nationals here in St. Kitts and Nevis? So let's say we have people from the United States of America and they are somewhat caught in that disaster. Can you explain in a nutshell what is the procedure for them to get back to the US of A?
Okay, thank you for that question, Mr. Cornelius. It is important to remind the listening public that countries like the United States of America, Canada, the British, etc., they do have missions in the region. And sometimes they have an honorary consul in the Federation, which is responsible for representing their nationals and citizens in St. Kitts and Nevis. So in the event that there is a hurricane or other natural disaster and citizens of other countries are in St. Kitts, one, they may immediately contact the honorary consul. They may contact the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And what we have seen happen, I think it was during Irma and Maria, persons contacted their families in the United States, and then their family would have contacted our embassy in Washington, D.C. That information would have come to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would have reached out to the individuals with assistance from the Embassy of the United States based in Bridgetown. So there are different ways in which the ministry becomes involved. If we are aware that there is such a person who wants to get back to the US and they have contacted us, because also there's a consulate in Antigua and they might have in the past have contacted that agency, US agency. But once we are aware that someone is in need of assistance, we will make contact with the embassy, the US embassy in Bridgetown, and seek the necessary assistance for that citizen. I think
Right.
I also remind that during the COVID-19, the Canadian government and the US government, the UK government, if I'm not mistaken also, provided transportation for their citizens to access in order to return home. So that is also an option.
Right, thank you. I guess this next question would tie into the answer that you just gave. But if I am a foreign citizen, I'm here in St. Kitts and Nevis, natural disaster occurs, and I have no way to prove that I'm a foreign citizen. I lost all of my documents, my passports, my IDs, everything is gone. What's the next step? Because at that time, I would be very frustrated.
Yes, and I too can imagine the frustration. I myself have experienced it with nationals of other countries when they find themselves in that dilemma. What we try to do as much as possible is to assure the national or the foreigner that, you know, we are here to facilitate, we are here to assist. We try to encourage them to remain calm. we try as much as possible to get them help as soon as possible. Now, if the individual has lost his or her passport, of course, we would have to contact the consulate or the embassy for them to verify or confirm that this is indeed a national of the country. They would have the data electronically. And also, once the person would have entered our borders, the immigration department should also have some information electronically about the individual. So the main thing though is, first step is to assure the citizen who might be very traumatized that we will do our endeavor best to facilitate and assist. Then we contact, of course, the representative through the embassy, the consulate division, and they will either ask for the number of the individual themselves, if they confirm that it is indeed their citizen, and they will communicate directly with the individual or through us or copy us so that we remain abreast of what actions they're taking. In the case of the United States, usually you cannot return to the United States without a passport. So in the past, persons have had to wait while the US expedite a passport. I imagine that in case of a hurricane, that may not be possible. And we have seen during this pandemic how the US has tried to facilitate its citizens as much as possible. Recently, we got a diplomatic note from the US Embassy advising that although under normal circumstances, they will not allow their citizens to re-enter on an unexpired passport, they have indicated to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis through the ministry that they will be willing to facilitate their citizens in the event that they are traveling on an expired passport.
Thank you for that response, Ms. Bass. Just one last question, and we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to pose some other questions that I'm hoping to hear from Mrs. Betty. Can you shed some light quickly on the simulation exercises or annual exercises in terms of disaster preparedness that the committee has had over the years, and are you planning to do any more going forward? That would be a rhetorical question if you're planning to do more. But now that we're in COVID-19, how difficult do you see, or how possible, rather, would it be to have these exercises in line with current climate?
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. Excellent question. Simulation exercises take different formats. One could be a tabletop exercise where persons sit around a table, literally, and you have a scenario or different scenarios, and you're asked to respond as to what response you will take, what action you will take if this were to occur. And persons will share, and then there will be some exchange of whether you would have done the right thing or what are the other alternatives to what you would have done. And so that is very helpful. It is usually organized by the National Emergency Management Agency. And we will get our subcommittee members together and we will try to do that. On a wider scale, there could be a simulation exercise in person where you actually, instead of a tabletop, you actually have the scenarios being played out. I recall there was one at the airport some years ago where there was a fake
a crash?
Plane crash, yes. And then the different agencies had to respond to see who should be first on site, who will they communicate with, what actions should be taken, etc. So you can actually have an actual planned scenario being played out, or you can sit around a table and just have a discussion. Since I've been the chair of the Foreign Assistance Subcommittee, I've been pleased to participate in about two tabletop simulation exercises. And NEMA, of course, helped us in that, where we sat around the table and we found out what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses in terms of our response. And that was very helpful. We are planning to have another simulation exercise. Hopefully that one could be done in the case of in light of the pandemic that we're experiencing. We will have to do that virtually, of course, where persons join in, sitting at their desk, but not in person, of course, and trying to come up with the correct actions, or appropriate actions to be taken in the event that there's a disaster. I hope I have answered your question, Mr. Cornelius.
Yes, you have, Ms. Bass. We're going to take a short break real quickly to say thank you to our sponsors for this program. And when we come back, I'm going to pose some questions to Mrs. Betty and Ms. Southwell. I think they're very much prepared for me as they were here last week. Let's take a short break. We'll come back, and just remember, we're going to open the phone lines at around 11:40 to hear from the members of the public as they too may have questions. Let's take this short break and we will be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Know that you've captured those special moments. Turn them into lasting memories at the TDC Business Center. Purchase your photo print bundle and get a chance to win a Canon MG3010 printer. Click and print. Visit TDC Business Center today.
Flow Broadband and TV is packed with even more value as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Good morning, my little superheroes. Tell me, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The power to read minds.
Super speed. Pew. The power to heal the sick.
Well, you can get smart, speed, and good health with the superhero trio from Halliburch. Halliburch has delicious omega-3 bursts, sugar-free multivitamin liquid, and flavored vitamin A, C, and D chewables to support a strong immune system, healthy bone development, and acute mental performance for superheroes like you. Part of the Halliburch family.
Good afternoon. Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to Voices on Win FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devonne Cornelius. For those of you who just tuned in, you're listening to Voices with Ms. K. Bass from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She is that ministry's permanent secretary, and she also serves as the chairperson for the National Disaster Subcommittee. We also have the Public Relations Officer for NEMA, as well as NEMA's planning officer, Mrs. Eureka Lennon Petty. Again, thank you guys so much for accepting our invitation. So this morning you heard from Ms. Bass from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and she provided some information as it relates to the Disaster Subcommittee and what the responsibilities are prior, during, and after disasters, natural disasters, whatever the case may be. Now, Ms. Southwell, as the officer, if you can perhaps provide an update on some of the programs that the agency has in place to further the general public about perhaps upcoming exercises, any annual exercises we may have coming up, as of course we are in the hurricane season.
Thank you so much once again, Devon. And thank you to Ms. Bass as well for that comprehensive report. And I'm so happy that she presented it in that way, before, during, and after. Some of the 10 subcommittees, and you will meet them over time as we've been discussing. Sometimes they have more activities up front in the preparedness phase. So before, they may have a lot of activities, and once the event starts going on, then they may have the responsibilities may start to diminish. So these subcommittees all fit together like hand in glove. They all complement each other, and then do not all do the same preparedness activities and so on as you would have learned. How do we share information? If there is an event that is threatening us, in this case, during the hurricane season, a storm or hurricane, that is an imminent threat to the Federation, there is first a pre-strike meeting. That is what it is called. We gather all of our stakeholders together in one room under the patronage of the Mitigation Council. And so persons will present on the state of readiness. And of course, the Mitigation Council, with the mechanism that is in place just for this purpose, would do some reporting to cabinet and so on to have some of those proposals, recommendations, requests addressed. So in other words, someone may come from shelter subcommittee and say, there's an issue with a shelter in this area or whatever. And through the cabinet, the relationship between the Mitigation Council and the cabinet, we will get those issues addressed and so on. Once that pre-strike meeting is hosted, then we may or may not activate the National Emergency Operations Center. If it is activated during COVID, it might require some virtual activation, but certainly some persons will need to be within the NEOC at NEMA during activation. And decisions will be made there upon whatever impacts take place as a result of whatever hazard may be impacting at the time. As I've said, we're focusing on hurricanes and storms and so on because we are in the hurricane season. So we will be gathered there to address any issues as they come up and in effect to sort of run the operations of the country ongoing, from preparedness to impact to recovery and rehabilitation. All of the subcommittees, their fingers will be in the pot at that time, and including NEMA staff, of course. And so we'll be able to manage whatever is going on the outside from the inside. We share information through our various media platforms. There are Facebook pages, NEMA SKN. They're all on the public setting. So whether you have a Facebook page or not, or whether you're a friend on the page, you can access the information. We have a website, it's nema.kn, and it is updated, and persons can gather information from that source, including how to respond to impacts of a variety of hazards. We have, of course, our WhatsApp platform, which is 4665100. That is also the telephone number of NEMA headquarters as well. So you could send us, WhatsApp us your questions or recommendations, whatever, anything you're seeking to find out, you can contact us in that way. We have a YouTube channel, and we are right now outfitting the channel to operate as such, as a channel. We are still in talks, the communications unit of the agency. We're still trying to find the best way to get that up and running so that persons can go there for any emergency information, but education and awareness, alert messaging, and so on as well. We're really trying to come into the 21st century, guns blazing, Devon, trying to ensure, because what NEMA is responsible for is to ensure that we touch every single person, every resident, every person who is on the island during any type of impact. We need to have the capacity to touch and engage every single person in some way. With some redundancy, you're going to hear from us through a variety of platforms. But once we get the message in there, that's the important thing.
Right, thank you so much, Southwell. It is 11:42 on the phone lines, and we're going to take some callers. Hopefully, we'll have some callers posing some questions to Mrs. Lynn Petty. But we're going to open the phone lines now. The numbers to call are 466-0989-762 and 662. We have no callers yet. As such, we're going to continue this conversation. But again, let me repeat the numbers for those of you who tuned in late. The numbers to call are 466-0989-762 and 662. You can also leave us a comment on the Facebook stream. We're live via Facebook at Win Media SKN, and you can also listen via www.winmediaskn.com. So, Mrs. Petty, as we spoke about earlier, the different initiatives that NEMA has taken to further sensitize the public, I would guess that this question would tie into the question I asked earlier to Ms. Bass about how has it been in terms of planning these activities, specifically at NEMA, in light of COVID and with the current challenges, because I assume that you may have challenges, but in terms of meeting some of your demands during the pandemic.
Thank you for that question. Of course, as everyone would have experienced, COVID brought its new set of challenges where we realized that we can't actually go out to the public like we did once before. And in lieu of that, what we did was take on a more virtual approach. Ms. Bass would have made reference to some of the exercises that she participated in. And so this year and last year as well, we started doing those virtually. We participated in Caribbean Wave as we do every year. And we actually had a virtual tabletop exercise for that. And it went really well. We actually had about 100 participants, and it actually doubled the number because of that. We were able to test our stakeholders. Normally we test the public, but this year we decided to test the stakeholders. And because it was virtual, it enabled us to have an unlimited number of guests, and it gave persons a chance to join either morning or afternoon. And so I think that worked well. And when Ms. Bass referred to the upcoming exercise for foreign assistance, that will be done virtually as well. And that in itself should also create more opportunities for even more persons to join, because, sometimes physically being in a physical space presents its own challenge in terms of capacity of how much persons can fit in that one space. But we do not have that limitation with the virtual platform. And so that's one benefit of having our hurricane preparedness done virtually. We have also started doing some videos that you'll be seeing shortly. The communications unit is right now producing, or they will be producing some video shots of hurricane preparedness tips. I don't know if you've been lucky enough to see as well the infographics that they have been sending out about hurricane preparedness. And so we started doing hurricane preparedness a bit differently, a bit virtually, a bit more hands-off, but we are still doing the best we can and trying to reach as much persons as possible.
Thank you, Mrs. Petty. The phone lines are still open. It is 11:46, 11:47 now here in our studios at 1FM 98.9. Again, thank you guys for accepting our invitation. Who just tuned in, you can call us at 466-0989-762 and 662. We have no callers yet at this time. Okay, I think we do have a caller on the line. Okay, no, we have no callers at this time. Sorry. So I wanted to ask as well, Mrs. Lennon Petty, in your capacity as the planning officer, you mentioned that there are some virtual forums that the department would use to sensitize people or something like that as well. And Miss Southwell spoke about that as well in terms of moving or adapting to the 21st century, where everything now is becoming via social media. Everything is technology is getting better and better as we speak. I know in the past you would have training exercises for your people in the health in terms of nurses and doctors. How are you doing it now whilst adhering to COVID protocols?
I'll speak in general and not just reference to health personnel. What we do, we actually do virtual training as well. We have our facilitators join virtually. We have everyone sign up virtually. So it's still the same. That's during this community spread especially. I know that we had a shelter managers training planned, for example, but because of the situation, it had to be postponed, and that will probably be done online. And so we've just moved online. What we endeavor to do is for some of the things that are a bit more practical, we may do some video, some instructional videos that the person can actually save and review as they go. And, we try our best to accommodate and prepare as much as possible.
Thank you so much for the response. It is just 15 minutes to 10 of 12 o'clock. Of course, we're going to wrap up at 12 for the headline news. Let us take a short break to say thank you to our sponsors, and hopefully we'll have some callers on the line trying to get in. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
From the South, 98.9.
Flow Broadband and TV is packed with even more value as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
When the star them there, we are top man, we take charge. Have no reaching now, we are shell down us. Last like a star with some gallopers. Overdo it, we take it too far. Take charge, take charge.
We are hot gal, we set the trend. Magnum we drink for the top man then. Wine with the style, no stop from spend. Hot blend, back bend, and take charge, take charge.
Magnum tonic wine, for the real star them. Take charge, take charge. Must be 18 or older, drink responsibly.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
Welcome back to Voices on WinFM 98.9. It's 11:52. As we're back, I am going to continue this conversation. Ms. Bass, if I may continue with you, can you shed some light as to what type of assistance we have received here in St. Kitts and Nevis prior, or during, or after a natural disaster or a disaster? And perhaps you can use that opportunity to say, what type of assistance have we been able to lend?
Excellent question, Mr. Cornelius. Yes, the assistance that the Foreign Assistance Subcommittee and Foreign Affairs by extension has been able to procure for the government in St. Kitts and Nevis has varied. It could be financial, it can be material, logistical, and so we are pleased that in the past we have been able to facilitate financial assistance from our bilateral partners. And if I may also indicate that we have received assistance from non-traditional partners. I know that we expect assistance from the US, the UK, Canada, etc., the European Union, but I just want to plug here that it is important to develop relationships with non-traditional partners, because whereas our traditional partners may be able to give some funds bilaterally, they also contribute in a multilateral way to the region. So they might give funds to CARICOM or the OECS, but non-traditional partners who are not accustomed to giving funds in that way, and whose funds may not be tied up necessarily with restrictions to overseas development assistance, may be able to give more sometimes. And so in the past, we've received assistance from non-traditional partners like Qatar, Romania, and this has been excellent, especially during the last 2 hurricanes in the aftermath of that. And so the US and the British, they usually have fleet in the region, maybe a Navy ship in the region that can provide personnel, resources that may come in. We saw that happening with the overseas territories for the UK last time, when there was a ship in the region, a Navy ship, and they were able to lend assistance to the overseas territories. What we have seen happening, however, is that the monies that they could have given to the British Virgin Islands, for example, were tied up in, the restriction that they put on official assistance, overseas assistance, because the BVI has a GDP that is high or middle income, then they were not able to take the funds in order to give to the BVI. And since that time, they have changed the pattern. So they now have funds available that they can access outside of the official assistance funds. But we can get assistance to, logistics. I think the USAID, they have someone in the region who can come in and assist and assess it quickly. And so the assistance we are talking about may not necessarily be financial, but it can be other types of assistance as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bass. We are just 3 minutes before the hour of 12, and we have no callers. So we're going to close the phone lines at this time, because if you take a call now, then we're going to be here until after 12. So we have no calls at this time. I'll just use this opportunity to again say thank you for accepting our invitation. This was a very good interview, and I think you were able to hit all of the nails on the head, and you were able to get the information out there to people that are listening to this program, and to sensitize people about what is happening and what they need to know. And at this time, I would want to use this opportunity to encourage people to be vigilant. Yes, I know we are still, posed with the challenge of trying to live with COVID-19, but wherever you can, make sure that you are prepared to, we're in the hurricane season and you never know what may happen. So I just want to use this opportunity to encourage people to continue to make your necessary preparations for you and your family. At this time, I am going to allow Ms. Bass to give us some closing comments, and we're going to continue with Ms. Southwell and Mrs. Lennon Petty. Ms. Bass?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cornelius. I would just like to appeal to the listening public to adhere to the hygiene protocol, the non-pharmaceutical practices, so that we can return to as near normalcy as soon as possible. I know that we do depend on others sometimes for assistance, but what is key is if we make our own arrangements and prepare so that we can mitigate against, any losses. So in a time of COVID, a pandemic, and then with the imminent, the onset of hurricanes, we are to ensure that we are abiding by the protocols that have been shared with us from the health authorities. And we must do all that we can to ensure that we do not exacerbate the effects of a hurricane at the same time when we are going through the pandemic.
Thank you so much for that response, Ms. Bass. Ms. Southwell?
Thanks, Devon. I just want to very quickly remind persons that who the competent authorities are for information related to disaster management in the Federation is NDMD on Nevis, NEMA on St. Kitts. We both, NDMD and NEMA that is, collaborate with the Met Services, that those are our competent authorities related to certain hazards. We listen to no one else but them. We may consider opinions of others, but the true scientific information comes from the St. Kitts Met Services. So I just want to encourage persons not to flood us with a lot of questions about whether this is true or that is true. If it does not come from a credible source, such as NEMA, Met Services, NDMD, ignore it. Ignore it. If it is something that we need to get to the public, trust me, we will get it out there. And I just want all of us to be safe and to be considerate of others. Thank you so very much, Devon, WinFM, and of course, Mr. Backus.
And thank you so much, Ms. Southwell. Mrs. Lennon Petty, do you have any closing comments?
I think they both and yourself said is also what you guys said is what I would have said. At this time, happy Father's Day to everyone, not only within the agency as well as everyone who's listening, who've had the chance to be a father. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Lennon Petty, for that reminder. Yes, Father's Day is coming up very soon. Let me use this opportunity again to say thank you guys so much for accepting our invitation. It was a very good interview, and I'm looking forward to this continued partnership where we can partner with the officials at the National Emergency Management Agency.
We'll be back next week unless you block us.
Yes, to get the information out to the general public. We're going to be back next week, God's Been Live, next week, Friday. So be sure to tune in at 11 a.m. via our social media platforms, via our website at www.mediaskan.com. Of course, we are live on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. And you can also tune in at 98.9 FM. This was Voices on WinFM 98.9. Have a beautiful Friday afternoon, everyone. We'll take this break for the headline news, and Voices will be back at 12:30. Let's take this break.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and Development Bank.
Everyone struggles at times. Even we too have our own struggles. Do you have a loan at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and have fallen behind on your payments because of financial difficulties? Have your financial situation changed? If your answer is yes, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis or call 465-2288, extension 1101 or 469-5416 to make an appointment to discuss our debt evaluation and restructuring plan with one of our qualified officers. We are committed to working with you to make a sustained positive difference in your life.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Devonne Cornelius.
Making the headlines.
St. Kitts and Nevis has confirmed its first COVID-19 related death.
St. Kitts and Nevis leaders offer condolences to the family of first COVID-19 victim. More questions than answers at NEOC press briefing. Now, the details.
St. Kitts and Nevis has confirmed its first COVID-19 related death, according to Minister of Health, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, at a joint press conference by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of National Security on Thursday, June 17, 2021.
At about 12:14 p.m., we received word that the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has recorded its first death as a result of COVID-19. We wish to extend condolences to the family and loved ones of the dearly departed. We have repeatedly said that we are not immune to the ravages of COVID-19, including severe disease and death.
Any questions related to the COVID-19 victim, as well as his or her vaccination status, will not be addressed at this time, according to Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws, while speaking at the press conference, said,
"The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is presently trying to contain the current wave of COVID-19 cases. Between May 19th to yesterday, June 16th, we have recorded 234 additional cases. So 234 cases have been added to the Federation's COVID-19 tally over this 4-week period. The graph on the right highlights the number of cases added daily. And so yesterday, June the 16th, we received positive results for 28 persons, inclusive of 26 positive cases related to inmates at Her Majesty's Prison. The preceding day, on the 15th, we received 18 additional positive results. So let me repeat, over this 4-week period, we added 234 cases to the Federation's tally. During this time period, we have also had 25 cases recovering. So within this 4-week period, a total of 25 cases have recovered. At present, a cadre of case managers and physicians are monitoring 208 active cases. So at present, we have 208 active cases being closely monitored. Over this 4-week period, we've had 12 hospitalizations, COVID-19 related hospitalizations. Please note that 7 of these cases have since been discharged. So at present, we have 5 cases in hospital. And as the Honorable Minister of Health, Mrs. Akila Byron Nisbet, just highlighted, at about 12:14 this afternoon, we were notified of the first COVID-19 related death.
CMO Dr. Laws used the opportunity to provide a breakdown of the positive cases at Her Majesty's Prison and indicated that the cells have been professionally sanitized since the outbreak.
So on June 9th, we identified the first case in this outbreak. On June 11th, we identified 8 additional inmates who were found to be positive. On June 15th, 2 cases. On June 17th, 26 cases. So in total, we have 37 inmates diagnosed with COVID-19. These cases have all been notified. These cases are being monitored as we speak. These cases have been separated from the general population. They are in Her Majesty's Prison.
In response to a question about the capacity at Her Majesty's Prison in Bastia, St. Kitts, Osmond Petty, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, said there is adequate space within the prison compound that can be used to isolate prisoners who have tested positive for COVID-19. According to the June 15, 2021 vaccination report, 32,165 people in the Federation have received the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine, with 24,557 for St. Kitts and 7,608 for Nevis. There are now 10,255 fully vaccinated individuals. Of the 279 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 264 were identified on St. Kitts and 15 for Nevis.
The Federation records its first confirmed death from COVID-19, as announced by the Minister of Health, signaling that the stark reality confronting the rest of the world is now at our doors. Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris expressed condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased on Thursday. Quote, "It is indeed a sad day for all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, after learning that the dreaded coronavirus has claimed the life of one of our citizens. As Prime Minister, I express my profound condolences to the family and loved ones. I also wish to assure the family that my thoughts and prayers are with them at this very difficult time," Prime Minister Harris said. In a short message on his Facebook page, Premier Mark Brantley also extended his condolences to the family of the individual.
Today, we had the tragic news that St. Kitts and Nevis recorded its first death from the COVID-19 disease. It is news the kind of which we had hoped never to have in our country. Today is a sad day for all of us. As Premier of Nevis, I extend my very deepest condolences to the family of this young person who has been lost to this dreaded disease. I hope that this death will send a very clear message to us all that we are not immune from COVID-19, that this monster has come to this world and to our federation to destroy, and that it is up to us as a people to take every step and every measure available to us to protect ourselves and our families. Today is a sad day for all of us. It is my hope that we have no further deaths, and that our people will take such measures as are available to them to protect themselves, their families, their communities, and to protect our beloved country. Thank you, and may God bless you, and may God continue to bless and protect the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
The Nevis Reformation Party shared a statement Thursday night, June 17th. Quote, "The Nevis Reformation Party extends condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased. Our thoughts and prayers are with you during this very difficult time." The statement urged adherence to the COVID-19 prevention and control measures and encouraged people to seek medical advice from their doctor regarding their eligibility for the AstraZeneca vaccine. On Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, in the dead of the night, the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis were notified that a state of emergency was declared by the Governor-General, and new regulations, statutory rules and orders 24 of 2021, made under the Emergency Powers Act, were implemented in St. Kitts and Nevis effective 6 p.m. During the NEOC COVID-19 briefing held at 5 p.m. on June 16th, 2021, WIN, having reviewed the new regulations, asked Attorney General Vincent Byron Jr. to explain the regulations for weddings, funerals, and places of religious instruction in Nevis. The Attorney General, in response, alleged that WIN may not have actually perused the statutory rules and orders 24 of 2021 fully and ignored the specific question, choosing instead to talk about the difference between the beach attendance regulations for both islands. The regulations are silent concerning restrictions for weddings, funerals, and places of religious instruction in Nevis. Section 13 of the new regulations addresses specific rules for St. Kitts only. WIN Media contacted local attorneys at law who confirmed that the regulations are in fact silent concerning restrictions on weddings, funerals, and places of religious instruction on Nevis. WIN has been advised that given the silence in the new regulations, the provisions of the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act 2020 should apply to Nevis. WIN also conducted initial investigations as to why the state of emergency and new regulations were needed to replace SRO 21 of 2020, made under the Public Health Act that came into force on Saturday, June 12, 2021 for 2 weeks. Why were they revoked on June 15, 2021, 3 days later? WIN understands that the state of emergency was declared because the Public Health Act may not have given the Minister of Health authority to implement a curfew. The Attorney General, when answering the first question at the NEOC COVID-19 briefing as to why the state of emergency, stated that the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act 2020 specifically requires that curfew can only be imposed by way of regulations made by the Governor General under the Emergency Powers Act. This leaves two open questions. Why wasn't the state of emergency declared on Saturday, June 12, 2021, if the law is so clear? 2. Were the curfew regulations purportedly implemented by the SRO 21 of 2021 regulations between Saturday and Tuesday unlawful? WIN also inquired about the type of variant now present in St. Kitts and Nevis and was told by the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, that samples have been sent to CARFA and officials could not say emphatically which variant is in circulation because they are awaiting results. WIN asked how are prisoners who tested positive for the coronavirus isolated. We were told that prisoners who tested positive for the coronavirus were isolated in cells separate and apart from other prisoners. 3 questions submitted to media briefing were ignored. Those questions were: with active cases on the rise, what arrangements are in place for our health care facilities and service systems, emergency room, hospital staff, specialists, for example? What about quarantine and isolation sites? Of the current confirmed cases of COVID-19, can you give a number as to how many received at least their first shot of the vaccine? Can you explain the process of payment of fees for COVID-19 laboratory tests for Nevis? WIN will continue to ask questions in the public interest, and hopefully we can get clear answers as we partner with agencies in the national interest. In regional news,
in Barbados, some leading promoters are said to be up in arms over a government decision to scrap this year's Crop Over Festival. The decision also bans all party cruises and allows limited land events. More on that development from Barbados today.
Sources close to the situation reveal that the plans were shared during an industry meeting on Tuesday that was chaired by Prime Minister Mia Mottley and included key officials from the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the National Cultural Foundation. In addition to the cumbersome restrictions on the floundering industry, Barbados today has also learned that unvaccinated patrons must be COVID-19 PCR tested within 48 hours of each of the scaled-down events. In response to concerns about the profitability of events if reduced to such small numbers, authorities have also floated the idea of offering a $5,000 grant to assist promoters. In response, some promoters declare that cruise operators, promoters of events on land, and even artists are victims of a biased framework of COVID-19 protocols. They explain that the reduced numbers are simply too low for promoters to break even and are questioning the motives of authorities in the face of robust debate about an apparent difference in treatment of local promoters when compared with their overseas counterparts. Even more puzzling to some is the administration's policy on cruises, which have been banned across the board. Nevertheless, the measures seem much more consistent with the advice from the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, which last week shared a long list of protocols for the festival based on their professional analysis. Kareem Smith for Barbados Today.
One Indian lawyer currently in Dominica is expressing confidence that Mehul Choksi will be repatriated to India. Here's Carlisle John Baptist.
Prominent UK-based Indian lawyer Haprat Singh Giani, who has joined the Indian legal team in Dominica in the Mehul Choksi matter, has expressed confidence in their case. Choksi arrived in Dominica on May 23, 2021 and alleges that he was kidnapped on Jolly Beach in Antigua and brought to Dominica against his will. Since then, he has been in police custody and has been charged for alleged illegal entry into Dominica. He has pleaded not guilty to the charge and was denied bail in the magistrate's court by Chief Magistrate Candia Carrett George. His lawyers then went to the High Court, but last week High Court Judge Wynan Adrian Roberts dealt him a major blow when she denied him bail and deemed him a flight risk. Indian lawyer Gianni, who is in Dominica on behalf of the Indian government to assist in the matters, says he's confident that the justice system in Dominica will do the right thing. He is working as a consultant with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
I have an unshakable faith in the Dominican legal system. I am sure that justice will prevail and the courts will do what is legally permissible. Having said that, I'm fairly confident about our position. That is why I'm here.
And for what happened to the Choksi case in the Magistrates Court in Roseau on Thursday, let's turn to Observer Radio's Vivian Michael.
Indian fugitive Mehul Choksi has been remanded to the state prison in Dominica after his application for bail was again denied today. The 62-year-old was previously being held on remand in hospital while he undergoes treatment for a number of ailments. A magistrate court in Dominica today ordered that while Choksi should remain in hospital for the time being as his medical condition is reportedly deteriorating, as soon as he is given the all-clear, he'll be sent to the penal institution at Stock Farm. Choksi has been charged for illegal entry into Dominica, and when his matter came up again today, his lawyers told the court that he was suffering from several ailments that needed immediate medical attention. They include heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension, in addition to a recently developed hematoma that needs urgent care. His lawyers say they will challenge the magistrate's decision.
The role of the media and media support for a political party. That's the subject that has prompted a debate on the issue in St. Lucia. This report from Choice News Now begins with an input from opposition leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Philip J. Pear.
And that slander and defamation that is happening on that UWP radio station, I am saying to the owner and shareholders of that radio station that there is life after elections.
Pierre asserts that the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party has been on the receiving end of a tirade of abuse from hosts and guests on that station. However, the opposition is not alone, as the local press has also been heavily criticized via that platform. One example is this most disturbing accusation leveled by UWP member Felix de Turville in January of this year.
But we want to ask the question whether or not that the Labour Party, for them having the media 90% on their side in their pockets, I don't want to speculate here, but is it a possibility that these people have been paid?
SLP First Deputy Political Leader Ernest Hilaire suggests that such statements are characteristic of the ethos of the current UWP.
The United Workers' Party, what it has become, has really become a nasty party. You know, a party of nasty people. I mean, when for you to suggest that professionals, young professionals who ply in their trade, because they ask you questions, because they challenge you, it has to be because the opposition is paying them to do so. Let me tell you, when we're in government, we take our leaks too from the media, a lot of leaks. And by people we believe, you know, who just a few months ago, quite relatively, you know, I mean, you know, on good speaking terms with you and start challenging you the same way. Because the media is supposed to do that. The media is a third force in the society. It is. The media, regardless of which party's power, is supposed to hold them to account. And that's what it is. And that's what I expect of you. That you have to ask the hard questions and you have to demand explanations because you have a public that you're serving. And for somebody to suggest that if you're doing that, then clearly the opposition is paying you to do so is very insulting and demeaning.
While various media outlets have long been accused of exhibiting partisan bias, Hilaire says some of these criticisms are often unfounded.
That a certain government is vindictive, a certain government operates a certain way, So they want the media to be in their pocket. And if you decide you're not going to be in their pocket, then you must be in the other set pocket. So, I mean, it's very telling. And I must tell you, what the United Workers' Party has become is very worrying for our democracy. I don't think in our country we have ever sunk to the levels that we have sunk now, to the point where a prime minister is in the 6th year of his 5th year term. I mean, not wanting to even call elections, and almost disdainful of the people for wanting to ask for elections.
As the countdown to election continues, there appears to be an influx of partisan programming on local airwaves, as both main political parties have introduced a slew of new programs via various outlets. Many have observed that social media and talk shows have become the new political battlefield, particularly in the absence of traditional mass campaigning activities, which remain prohibited due to public health guidelines. For Choice News Now, Amani Mathre reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
Paraguay now has one of the worst per capita death and infection rates anywhere in the world. Hospitals are overstretched.
We begged for them to attend to my mother, but they didn't give us any kind of attention. They only said there was no space at that time because they were overwhelmed with patients.
And even when they can find room, they don't always have sufficient supplies of oxygen and medicines to treat their patients.
Patients are not directly turned away, but when they arrive, we explain to them that there is no longer enough oxygen, so they cannot be given the care they deserve. And yes, unfortunately, for 2 weeks now, patients have been turned away.
Less than 7% of Paraguay's 7.5 million population have been vaccinated, and until more are treated, experts fear the infection rates are only likely to keep rising. The forecast is brighter elsewhere, where vaccination campaigns are more advanced. Here in Argentina, 30% of the population has had at least one jab, with millions more doses scheduled to arrive in the coming weeks. With infection rates gradually falling, there's a perceptible rise of optimism in the air. Tens of thousands of pupils in Buenos Aires province have returned to their classrooms after months of online teaching at home.
We're all happy to be able to come back. We are observing the COVID-19 protocols.
Despite opposition from some, Rio de Janeiro's famous samba schools are also back to prepare for next year's carnival. Brazil's COVID crisis is still far from under control, but after more than a year of inactivity, during which the 2021 carnival was cancelled, many are relieved to be active again, despite the risks.
I'm very happy to be back with the band after such a long time, after a year of being separated, a year without playing the drums. Now I'm the happiest and most fulfilled person in the world.
The pandemic is still, however, preventing some from fulfilling their dreams. In Ecuador, doctors Mavelin and David have postponed their wedding to keep treating COVID-19 patients.
I don't regret it because we've helped many families who can now be with their loved ones.
Both have themselves recovered from the virus and say they'll beat it again, with the whole country watching and waiting to see when they'll finally get married. Daniel Schweiner, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
We are gathered here in a house built by enslaved people.
In a ceremony at the White House, it became official. The day slavery ended in America is now a national holiday. June 19th, 1865 was the day Union troops freed the last slaves in Texas, 2 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, a day that has become known as Juneteenth.
This is a day of profound, in my view, profound weight and profound power. A day in which we remember the moral stain, the terrible toll that slavery took on the country and continues to take.
It's the first national holiday approved since the 1980s. For some, it's something, but doesn't address real issues of today.
It avoids one of the major issues, and that is the human rights of African Americans.
People across the country took to the streets in the past year, advocating for racial equality, demanding urgent reforms to the justice system. In recent months, many states have passed new voting laws, which activists have claimed make it more difficult for people of colour to vote. And there's growing calls for some form of reparations for slavery itself, for the generations which have suffered the consequences. But for the protesters, they now have a national holiday.
Black people want their full citizenship to be recognized, not to be infringed upon. And while there's so many efforts to do so, some of the same senators who are trying to take away voting rights won't pass police reform and won't do many other things, trying to change education, are the same people who said, yeah, but we'll give you a symbolic holiday and you should be happy.
Joe Biden says this is a big deal. Currently, there are discussions underway on Capitol Hill about justice reform. Senators are coming under pressure to do more to protect voting rights across the country. All, say many Biden supporters, much more important than approving a federal holiday. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, at the White House.
It was the third challenge and the third time the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled in favor of Obamacare, a milestone that the law's namesake, former President Barack Obama, greeted by tweeting, "The Affordable Care Act is here to stay." The moment comes 11 years after Obama, backed by then Vice President Joe Biden, signed the Affordable Care Act into law.
Today, after all the votes have been tallied, health insurance reform becomes law in the United States of America.
But marred by a flawed rollout and relentless attacks from conservatives, the law, derisively nicknamed Obamacare by Republicans, soon became a cultural flashpoint. Donald Trump's rise to the White House in 2016 was partly fueled by the country's divisions surrounding Obamacare. But even as Republicans campaigned against the health care law, Americans began signing up in droves, reaching 31 million enrollees amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
I think having a pandemic like COVID meant that you had an economic downturn at the same time that you had a large health catastrophe. And the proof is in the pudding, right? In that the people losing their jobs, facing decreases in their salary, but also needing health care, were able to get the care they needed through insurance coverage. And I think that's a positive.
Justice Stephen Breyer, a liberal, wrote the Supreme Court's majority opinion released Thursday. Chief Justice John Roberts and 3 conservatives, including 2 Trump appointees, sided with the liberals, delivering the 7-2 ruling that Texas lacks standing to bring the suit. President Joe Biden called it a big win for the American people. The Supreme Court did not decide broader legal issues raised by the case about whether the Affordable Care Act remains constitutional after Congress struck down a key provision of the law in 2012. That means while the justices preserved health care once again for millions of Americans, they did not rule out hearing future challenges to Obamacare. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
St. Kitts and Nevis has confirmed its first COVID-19 related death.
St. Kitts and Nevis leaders offer condolences to the family of first COVID-19 victim. More questions than answers at NEOC press briefing. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The WinFM Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and its Development Bank.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Everyone struggles at times. Even we too have our own struggles. Do you have a loan at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and have fallen behind on your payments because of financial difficulties? Have your financial situation changed? If your answer is yes, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis or call 465-2288, extension 1101 or 469-5416 to make an appointment to discuss our debt evaluation and restructuring plan with one of our qualified officers. We are committed to working with you to make a sustained positive difference in your life.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
I'm back for another edition of Voices on WIN FM 98.9. Today is Friday, June 18, 2021. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm your host for this afternoon's edition of Voices, Devonne Cornelius. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be in the land of the living. And, thinking about what is happening throughout the world, what's happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. One ought to be grateful, one ought to be happy that they're, on the land of the living. So let me say good afternoon to all of you. Thank you guys so much for joining this edition of Voices by whatever it means, whether it may be radio, via our website, social media. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I want to use this opportunity to extend, on behalf of all of us here at WIN FM, our heartfelt sympathies and condolences to the family and loved ones
of the first COVID-19 victim, the person who became a victim to COVID-19, who died as a result of COVID-19. And so on behalf of all of us here at WinFM, at Win Media, we would want to express our deepest condolences and know that our thoughts and prayers are with you during this very difficult time. We know it's a difficult time for all of us. We are faced with the challenges of COVID-19. For those of us who may not be in a difficult financial position, you're probably faced with a difficulty where you have to be confined to one area or one space. And while some others may not see that as being a difficulty, it may very accustomed to being out and about. You're accustomed to be moving. And so whilst we understand that in this pandemic, people are going to lose money, people are going to lose family and loved ones because of COVID, and it may not necessarily be as a direct result of COVID where you die from catching COVID, but it could very well be because you ran out of money, you died of hunger. It could very well be because you are put out of your home and so you have no way to live, and you are unable to pay your bills and meet demands, and you're unable to look after your family. And so we would see people commit suicide because they're not making enough money to even be alive. And so we know that the challenges are significant. Yes, the world has always had bad things, for lack of a better word, happening. But I guess it is, really coming to the forefront now with COVID-19. As we're on this topic, and as we have recorded our first death, I saw some chatter on social media, which I would want to comment on, and I would want to, as best as I can, to provide some clarity. And of course, where I am wrong, of course, I stand to be corrected by the relevant person. Now, I saw some chatter on social media about our recent COVID-19 death, and there were some posts that suggest, well, is this really a COVID-19 death? Because the press conference was held yesterday at 1 o'clock, and the Minister of Health said that they found out of this incident, or it happened at approximately 12:14 p.m. And so a specific comment I saw was, this is the fastest autopsy we have had performed on a person, and other comments came along that line. There was a rebuttal by some people on social media that suggests you don't usually do autopsies on people who have died from COVID-19 because the virus is so contagious, and even after you die, the virus could very well still be active in the lungs and respiratory system of that deceased person. And so that was some interesting conversation that sparked on social media, and I wanted to provide some feedback. So I did some research, and I came across an article on Reuters, which led me to the World Health Organization's page. It says, autopsies of COVID-19 victims in Russia have shown COVID-19 to be the cause of death in thousands of instances. This is the contrary to posts on social media claiming these autopsies revealed COVID-19 does not exist and people are instead suffering from treatable blood clots caused by bacteria. Now, COVID-19 is caused by a virus, not bacteria. And although it can trigger blood clots, this is not the only effect of the disease. Quote, Russia is the first country in the world to dissect COVID-19 corpses, going against WHO's criminal orders of no autopsies allowed for COVID deaths. And after a thorough investigation, it was determined that COVID-19 does not exist as a virus, says the title of an article hosted on several sites, shared on social media. Now, the article and post captions say it cannot be assumed that it is a virus, but rather bacteria that cause death and lead to the formation of blood clots in the veins, nerves, from which the patient dies. Now, the World Health Organization does not prohibit autopsies for COVID-19 victims. In September 2020, they released guidance on safety procedures for autopsies of dead people infected with COVID-19. And the website led me to the website of the World Health Organization. And of course, it has listed here the overview, the guidelines and recommendations for when you are about to perform an autopsy. It says safety procedures for managing the bodies of deceased persons infected with COVID-19 should be consistent with those that apply to the autopsies of people who have died of an acute respiratory illness or other infectious diseases. If the person died of COVID-19 while he or she was infectious, the lungs and other organs may still contain live virus. If the body of a person with suspected or confirmed COVID-19 is selected for autopsy, healthcare facilities must ensure that safety measures are in place to protect those performing the autopsy, including appropriate PPE, which is protective personal equipment, must be available, including a scrub suit, a long sleeve fluid resistant gown, gloves, a medical mask, eye protection such as a face shield and things like that. The perform autopsies in an adequately ventilated room for natural ventilated spaces, a controlled airflow of at least 6 changes per hour, or rather for old buildings, 12 changes per hour for a new construction should be assured. So, in fact, according to this website, the WHO does approve autopsies for people who have died from COVID-19. But if you have a patient, who is sick and you have already tested them, and the test comes back that, well, this person is positive for the coronavirus disease, and they happen to die a few hours later, considering that they were experiencing the symptoms of a usual COVID positive patient, then I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a professional in the field, but I think the health officials, that would be the determination that they would make, that, well, this person died as a result of COVID. At the press conference on Thursday, June 17, the medical chief of staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, did state that any questions related to the COVID-19 patient, as you know, they're trying to provide some privacy to the family, those questions would not be addressed at this point in time. To provide some space for the family and loved ones of that COVID-19 victim. But it's just to, you know, we would always have our own beliefs and our own opinion of what we think the situation may be. We would always say, well, this is what is happening, and this is how it is because I believe so. And, of course, there are going to be some people who are going to be very adamant and going to be very, forceful and say, well, this is how it is. But I always believe in, before making such bold statements, in order to not look like you don't know what you're saying, it's always good to have some reinforcement. And so if you're going to suggest that an autopsy cannot be performed on the body of a COVID-19 patient, then you should go and seek some information to back your claim. If you're going to suggest that autopsies are performed, then of course you seek some information to reinforce what you have stated, And so I hope that I was able to provide some clarity for those people who were wondering. Of course, I would welcome any comment from any medical practitioner, any medical official who would be listening at this time. And later, we would seek to invite the chief medical officer or the medical chief of staff or anyone who is a medical practitioner to invite them for comments, of course, not related specifically to that COVID-19 patient, but what do you do after someone died as a result of COVID? We would see on the news in the great United States of America, the US of A, we would see where, when people die as a result of COVID, they are, you're not allowed to have a funeral, you're not allowed to go and kiss up and hug up as you're accustomed to do with our loved ones. When we have these instances, people who have died as a result of COVID, you're taken straight to the morgue, and then they whether they cremate you or whatever the case may be, But I hope I have provided information or enough information for people who are wondering. And of course, I'm going to open the phone lines at 1 o'clock. We're going to take a short break to say thank you to our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to continue this program here on 1FM 98.9. Let us take this short break and we will be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
It's the big
Daddy!
3-day weekend sale at Hosford's. This Father's Day weekend, Thursday, June 17th to Saturday, June 20th, Hosford's Building and Nevis Centers will be celebrating.
Daddy!
Yes! It's a 25% off store-wide for 3 days only as we celebrate.
Daddy!
At Hosford's Building Center and Nevis Center. Yes! It's Hosford's Building Centers.
Daddy!
Father's Day weekend sale. 25% off store-wide just for...
Daddy!
And that's not all. On Saturday, 20th June, it's the Just for Dads Health Fair with free health screening for all.
Daddy!
It's Hosford's Building Centers 3-day
Daddy!
Father's Day weekend sale, Thursday, June 17th to Saturday, June 20th at the Hosford's Building and Nevis Centers on Wellington Road, St. Kitts and Stony Grove, Nevis. Don't miss it. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Voices on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devonne Cornelius. Good afternoon to all of you who are listening via the radio, those of you who have joined via our website, www.mediaskn.com, and those of you joining via the different social media platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. We're now going to open the phone lines and we're going to welcome your comments and your questions at this time. Of course, pose your questions, we get to the point, and I will try to accommodate as much callers as possible this afternoon. We have no callers at this time, and so therefore I am going to continue with my discussion. It is 12:56 here in the studios of WinFM 98.9. For those of you who just tuned in, the numbers to call are 466-0989-762 and 662. You can also leave a comment on the Facebook Live, which is we're live via Win Media SKN. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, let me repeat those numbers for those of you who just tuned in. The numbers are 466-0989-762 and 662. You're listening to Voices on WinFM 98.9. And so, yes, the discussion is around, people who have died from COVID-19. Again, I'm not focusing or speaking, specifically to our first reported death related to COVID-19 St. Kitts and Nevis. It's just that, this unfortunate incident has created that forum or room for this much needed discussion, and people will have their questions. As stated before, I'm not a medical professional, so I won't be able to give you a medical answer. I can always give you my opinion. But of course, you posing your questions online, on air. There will be some medical practitioner out there listening, and they would want to provide their feedback. So we have a caller on the line. We're going to take this first call for this afternoon. Caller, good afternoon. You're live on Voices. Caller, good afternoon. You're live on Voices. Okay, we seem to have lost that call. Let me apologize for that. We're still taking your calls here on WinFM at 98.9. And again, the numbers are 466-0989-762 and 662. We have a caller. Let us take this call.
Very pleasant afternoon to you, Mr. Cornelius.
Good afternoon. You're live on Voices.
And to all your listeners everywhere. I would like to take the opportunity to express my condolences, sympathies, commiserations to the family and friends of the deceased. The first case of COVID fatality on the island of St. Kitts, and that covers the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I would like to find out if it is against national protocol for the information to be disseminated or disclosed with respect to the name of the individual and the area of St. Kitts where the individual is from, as well as the age and occupation of the individual. And the idea is there is anything against the disclosure of such information so that the country, the Federation can know?
I have no clue as to why, but the medical chief of staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, did state that at this time they will not be answering any questions as it relates to that patient. However, if I make my opinion, I think saying that the person who died from COVID, saying that, well, this person was let's just say, for example, 35. So given the general public the age of the individual as well as the sex or gender of the individual, in my opinion, would have been sufficient at this time, because providing the name of the person, then you're going to know who the mother is and the father is, and then really it is my opinion that at this time the family should have some privacy. But I don't think it would have been difficult for them to say, well, this person was this age and this is a man or a woman.
Right, I got your point, and your point is taken and well respected. Do you have any idea if that individual was vaccinated? Has that been
That's
disclosed?
a very good question. I think that question was posed at the press conference yesterday. However, again, they did state that they were not going to release any information with regards to that whether he or she, because I don't know if he or she, but whether he or she was vaccinated. I think, again, that is my opinion, it is very important to know the vaccination status of this individual, if they were fully vaccinated, if they received the first dose only, or if they were not vaccinated at all. I also think that it is important to say the age of the person and the gender of the person. In my opinion, to just come and say that someone died from COVID is not sufficient. At least give an age, or at least give one of the
gender. The gender.
Yes, the gender, because saying the age, then you might be able to find out who the person is. But saying the gender, I don't understand why they did not do that. Of course, I would not agree with giving the name at this time because of the circumstances, and given the
fair enough, because the place is a pretty small place, and even if you mention the community or the village where the individual originated from, even that would trigger off some negative responses as well from amongst the people within the same community and the surrounding areas. And I think here we are not clear, we are not sure as to whether the person was vaccinated, whether partially vaccinated or fully vaccinated. And we have cases of people seemingly being coerced or forced to take the vaccine. And it is quite clear that the vaccine cannot prevent anyone from contracting COVID, and it cannot prevent you from dying from COVID as well. I think we need to pay close attention to that, and bear in mind that taking the vaccine really and truly should be left up to each and every individual. It's in my opinion, a personal decision. It's an individual decision, and that call really and truly should be on the individual. The individual, each and every individual has a right to determine whether he or she should take a vaccine. We have to bear in mind that when we were much younger in primary schools, we received all sorts of zugus. That's the colloquial name that we gave for it. Zugu, all over the place, for mumps and measles and all these different things. So most of us as adults, I am sure, would have had shots from way back when we were in primary school. Against all the different stuff that used to come around, polio, myelitis, and all these different things. So I think those things last for quite a long time, and they may very well remain in one system for quite a while. And I think they have indicated that the research to produce vaccines never stopped. It was a continuous work in progress. So it was not difficult. That is the argument that they have put forward. It wasn't difficult for them to come up with a vaccine as quickly or as soon as they were able to come up with a vaccine for the wicked COVID. So I believe there are going to be people, there will always be people who have confidence in the vaccine, and they will believe that if they take the vaccine, it may prevent them from contracting it, or it may at least offer them some hope and some longevity. But I want to ask a question that so many people focus so much on fear as opposed to prayer. We live in a Christian-oriented society, and people fail to realize that nothing beats the power of prayer. And prayer is powerful. Nothing beats the power of prayer. And for too long, I believe our people in the region, in the Caribbean, have been too fearful. Another thing happens, we are filled with fear as opposed to going on our knees and focusing on prayer. Because the Creator, the Lord, He has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. I mean, that is Scripture, that is biblical. And I believe that if
right, caller, we have some other callers on the line that are trying to get in.
That's fine. I'm going to wrap up here right now and maybe try to get back in. So I think that more people can try to focus more on prayer as opposed to fear. And I think that the Lord is still in control, and we need to put our faith, trust, and hope in Him. Thanks for your time. God bless.
And thank you, caller, so much for your contribution. We're still taking calls here on 1FM at 98.9. For those of you who just tuned in, the numbers to call are 466-0989-762 and 62. This is Voices on 1FM 98.9. And I am your host for today, Devonne Cornelius. We have another caller on the line. We're going to take this call.
Greetings.
Good afternoon, caller. You're live on Voices.
Greetings. Any particular topic?
No, the conversation before was, of course, our first COVID-19 related death that was reported yesterday.
Okay. That is the highlight. All right. We were listening earlier. We heard mention of unanswered question. We noted one also. I don't know if it's from BNFM, but we noted one. A question was asked if the person who died, if they was vaccinated or not, and that answer was not forthcoming. The answer for that question was not forthcoming. So we just wanted to interject that, We listen your last call. My brother, praise God. But you see, prayer without, prayer without works is like a body without a spirit, And apart from putting in the prayer, the power of prayer, but it takes other things along with the prayer, It takes other things. And something we like to interject inside of that is immune boosting, people should just ceaselessly boost the immune system, within the scheme of things, Yeah, the items to do that are enough and natural. They're all around us. We are in this tropical place here, and the things that is here abundantly, And if we just use them and just keep our temple the way it ought to be kept, Yeah. We notice here. Let me go back to the debt thing. The debt. We don't really like to know. We don't really like to know that person who died. We don't like to know that person. We don't like to know that person's families, friends and families, so that we can extend condolences the way, it ought to be, And the unanswered question concerning the person's status, vaccinated or not, we didn't see the need for refusing to answer that question. That information should be privy to the public, Yeah, so we see it, We want to wish everyone the best going forward, those who are vaccinated and those who are not. And we say it before and we'll say it again. Them who in the line, who claim, say from longer time, say they're in the line, the back of the line. We hope by now we're not stepping up. And them who taking the vaccine in secret, go and take it. Go increase the numbers and take it in secret, And them who not take it, continue doing what you're doing, concerning, And best wishes to everyone. Give thanks, my brother. Blessed love.
Right. Thank you, caller, so much for your contribution. Let me pause quickly at this time. I want to add a comment before I take another call. So let me pause the phone lines for just a moment there. Yes, so with regards to our recent COVID-19 death, it was stated by the medical chief of staff at the Joseph Nathaniel France General Hospital that any questions related to the COVID-19 patient, the individual that died as a result of COVID, as reported by the Ministry of Health, any questions related to that incident will not be answered at this time, at this point in time. However, if I may comment on, people wanting to know the name of the person, that is where I would have to disagree. And that is my personal, view of the situation. COVID-19 is an infectious disease, and it is one that I believe if people found out that, well, John Doe of this particular family in this particular village had COVID, they're going to want to scorn your family members, because you're not going to assume that these people may have been exposed to COVID. And so I don't think at this time, knowing the name of the patient, the individual that died, will be of any use to the public. What I would say is that knowing the age of the person, knowing the gender of the person, and knowing whether they were vaccinated or not, whether they received both doses or the first dose, I think that information is important. Why? The age and gender. From the early onset of COVID-19, I remember there was a lot of chatter about the virus only affecting young people, or the virus only affecting older people. And so there was a lot of, back and forth on the internet, on social media, as to who are the target audience for COVID-19. And so it was unclear at that point whether COVID was after people in their 30s and 20s and 40s, or if it was after people who were much older. Of course, you realize now COVID, it doesn't know your age, it doesn't know your gender, it doesn't know your name, it doesn't know your political affiliation, whatever the situation may be. COVID does not know all of that. And so I'm not going to take any calls right now. Let me just finish this comment and then we're going to open the phone lines. And so we realized that COVID was there. It's here, sorry. And COVID is not going to say, well, this person is 20 years old, so I'm going to give them a chance. COVID did not discriminate against your age, against your gender. And so, however, if we see a situation where people in their 50s and 60s or 40s are dying of COVID, perhaps our people here in their 50s, in their 60s, 40s, may want to know if they fall in that category. If this person was in their 50s, their 40s, their 60s, you'd want to know if COVID is affecting more men than women. You would want to know if COVID is affecting more men than women, so you can know what to do to protect yourself. Of course, everybody should protect themselves. But I think vital information like that, such as the gender of the individual, and perhaps the age and the vaccination status, because we now have a lot of hesitancy with this vaccine. If you find out that this vaccine, that this individual was not vaccinated, then people will say, boy, well, he wasn't vaccinated or she wasn't vaccinated, so let me go and take the vaccine. But what do you do if the individual, let's say, may have been vaccinated? Do you think that would decrease the numbers? Or let me not say decrease the numbers, but do you think that would have a negative impact on the vaccination status? Quickly, before I take any more calls, I want to add another comment. I saw and have been seeing some things on social media as it relates to news about COVID-19 and news about the virus. about the vaccine. And there are some people who are of the opinion that, for example, vaccines have benefits and risks. But science has said that the benefits outweigh the risks. Some people will say that if you report on the risk of taking the vaccine, you are fear-mongering and you are instilling fear in the people and you are not helping the situation. So if you know that these are the risks of taking something or doing something, we should not tell you just because we want you to do it. I don't understand people. I'm going to open up the phone lines and I am going to take some calls. Do we have a call on the line? No, we have no callers at the time. Yes, we have a caller on the line. Let us take this caller. Caller, good afternoon. You are live on Voices.
Greetings, probably. Thanks for taking our call again. Most humbly, we beg to differ. Too. Because that is one side of the story, you know. But the story got other side and sometimes many sides because in the public interest, you know, knowledge of the one family. You just watching one side of it where people might scorn the family, but in the public interest, remember we're dealing with a whole heap of people. That is just one person now. That is just one family. But we're dealing with families, communities.
Right. When you say, right, I understand what you're saying, Carly, but when you say public interest, how would it help benefit from knowing the name of the person? I think the public will benefit. Hold on. Okay, go on. Public will benefit. I think the public will benefit from knowing the vaccination status. I think the public will know the age of the person. Hold on before I cut you off.
Okay.
I think the public will benefit from knowing the age and the sex and the vaccination status. But it is my humble opinion. I believe we're going to benefit from knowing if the person's name was John Doe or Mary Jane. Caller is still on the line? Okay, we seem to. Please, when you let me state here before we take any other calls. When you call into this program, right, we're going to respect each other. Let me state that before I take any more calls. We are going to respect each other here. And so you're not going to call into this program and raise your voice and not allow me to speak, and vice versa. Let me put that on the table right now. If you're calling to this program and you seek to be disrespectful and you seek to want to take over, you will be cut off. Or better yet, you can hang up the phone. We are still taking calls here on Voices. The numbers to call out 466-0989-762 and 662. It is my opinion, and I respect your opinion, caller. I respect your opinion. But I don't believe the public is going to benefit. We're going to take this call. The public is going to benefit from knowing the name of the person. We have a call on the line. Caller, good afternoon. You're live on Voices.
Hey, good afternoon, Devonne. How are you doing?
Good afternoon,
How are you?
How are you?
Oh, you're giving God thanks, man, for life, health, and strength. God is good. I can't complain. Now, I listened yesterday. And every day we have that announcement come over the radio. Don't anybody asking what they die from. Now, given the time element, you remember they said they think it was 1 o'clock, right? It was 1 o'clock. They had the conference.
1:30.
Right. And the person had died less than an hour.
Yeah, according to a health minister, she said 12.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that certain members of the family have not yet been informed. Imagine you put on your radio and then you hear that you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
We have got to learn to be considerate. What does it add to you, seriously, if he was or he was not? If you're already vaccinated, you're vaccinated. If you're not going to help you. Because remember, we are dealing with individual. Individuals have different body type. Remember that they did say people had comorbidity, overweight, and now you heard those remarks, right?
Right, but while I understand what you're saying, Miss Henry, if you have someone who died from COVID-19, right, the same way you can come and say this person or majority of the people who were infected with COVID-19 had underlying issues such as diabetes, hypertension, they were overweight. I think if that person dies, death from COVID-19, you should tell the general public that this person who died from COVID, they were overweight, they had hypertension, they were diabetic, they had some sort of respiratory illness, and whether they were vaccinated or not. And
they did say that those who were hospitalized, she did say, those who were hospitalized, if you recall, right? Those who were, they did say that those who were hospitalized, apart from the children, had comorbidity, overweight, and all of that. But I am still thinking of the effect on the family, and people are already calling people names. They know who it is, they know where it's from, they know it's a he.
You shouldn't call any person. I disagree with calling a name.
But you will have seen the gossip link, because I show it on Facebook. It's already out there. Where he from. Now, how does that help you if you're not vaccinated? And the gentleman, Baptiste, they risk, they give you the probability, When they say between 60 to 84 or 70-something%, that is the probability of you not getting it. You know maths, right?
Yes.
That's what it means. You have a 60% chance of not getting it. You have a 70% chance of not getting it. You have an 84% chance of not getting it. Which means that there's a 16% of you getting it. So are you going in with a 0% chance of getting it?
Right.
You've got to reason things properly.
Because,
when you're not vaccinated, your chance of getting it is higher than somebody else. And as the rest say, if your immune system is weak when you start with, whether you have 1 or 2 jabs, your possibility of getting it is higher.
Right.
All of these things are taken into consideration. We love to gossip. Then they will tell you, oh, I know when he gets it, I know who gave him. I mean, those kind of irrelevant conversation we're having. They want to know who bring it in, how they bring it. I mean, if you listen to the statistics, number 46 Yes. 46 came after 45 persons were tested positive. And they all came in. It could happen to anybody down there. So the questions we're asking, we are too political. We are just too political. We want to politicize. And I pray for the people. And that is what we should be doing, and protecting ourselves and go and get vaccinated. Don't wait and say, oh, well, he was vaccinated, so he dead, so me ain't going. What has that got to do with you? How are you connected to him? That's what we call correlation, How does his health condition affect yours? All right, then.
Thank you. We're going to take one more call. It's 25 minutes past the hour of 1. Do we have any callers on the line? If we have no callers, I'm going to close off the phone line at this time, and I'll just give my closing comments. And we have no callers. We're going to close the phone line. I'll give my closing comments. It is 26 minutes past the hour of 1. You're listening to Voices on FM 98.9. So, it is my opinion that you should not say the name of the individual. You're not going to benefit from knowing if this person's name was John Doe or Mary Jane. And I don't think it concerns you when I say you, I'm speaking in general. I don't think it concerns us. What the person, what their name is, the circumstances, dying of COVID-19. Give the family some privacy. But I think we should be provided with the information such as the vaccination status, and I'll say why. The caller before said, how does that concern you, or where is the connection? Of course it concerns you. If you are an obese individual, if you are hypertensive, if you are sick, if you have any underlying health issue, and you heard that this person who died as a result of COVID had the same issues, or you know, don't you think the general population, the population should know? So then if you hear that this person who died from COVID, then you will say, well, boy, I think I need to take stock of myself because the person who died from COVID had similar underlying issues like I do. If I hear a diabetic die from COVID, then you know you should be concerned because you're diabetic, or you have high blood pressure, or you have this disease. So you come, maybe at that time, of course, you understand all of that information may not have been able to come to the fore. But I am calling on the health officials, I'm calling on the health authority, I'm calling on the medical team to provide this, let me say, essential information. This may very well save the life of someone. It could be mine, it could be yours. It could be any one of you who are listening to this program. To understand what were the underlying health issues. Yes, we did hear that some of the individuals who came down with COVID had this sickness or disease or whatever. I mean, in terms of high blood pressure, diabetes, or they were obese. But they never come with numbers. So you often hear, oh, majority of them had diabetes, or majority of them were overweight. I don't like the word majority. If you're going to come as a medical professional to address the nation, to give them such information, bring numbers. Bring numbers. How many people who have been affected with COVID, how many people are obese? Bring numbers. How many were unvaccinated? How many were vaccinated? But you're going to come with, but I'm not sure, or majority, or some. You add to misinformation because you leave the public to assume. You leave the public to speculate that, well, this person had the vaccine. Because you know what is being said right now? Oh, the person was vaccinated. Well, if as the health officials, if you know that the individual was not vaccinated, come out and say it. And I am making this call to the health authorities that when we hold back information like this, we add to the problem. When you hold back information like this, you add to the problem. Again, I don't agree with saying, well, this person named John Doe and he from Upso and he used to work here and done. No, that is not your business. That does not concern you. Whether the person used to work by Valimata or Hosford's, it does not concern you because of the current circumstances of COVID-19, giving the family some time. And of course, I understand the time frame. The press conference was held at just after 1. The person, according to the health officials, died just after 12. And so to get all of that information now may have been difficult, would have been difficult. I am making this call to the health officials to let the people know the vaccination status, the gender, the age, and if this individual had any underlying circumstances. I'm going to give some leeway and I'm going to say, well, the medical chief of staff did say that they're not going to be answering any questions related to the patient at this point in time. So he did not say they're going to ignore your questions. He did say that at this point in time, meaning right now, during this period, they're not going to face any questions. But I'm calling on the health authorities and for us as citizens to really understand. But for you to just come and say, and for us to accept it like that, it's unacceptable. You just can't come and say, well, somebody is dead from COVID, and then that's it. You don't know if the person had any underlying issues. And so I think saying if the person had underlying issues, you will help to save a life. And so people in the Federation who have underlying health issues such as diabetes and hypertension would be more cautious. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are out of time. It is 2 minutes past. We are at 1:32. And so I'm going to begin wrapping up this program. Let me say thank you to all of you who took the opportunity to tune in. Thank you so much for your questions. And of course, I always welcome your calls. I always welcome your contribution and participation in this program. This was Voices on 98.9. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to be back tomorrow with Inside the News, another exciting edition of Inside the News. Tune in from 11 a.m. I'm going to be live, of course, via the radio, via our website at www.winmediaskn.com. I'm going to be live via Facebook at WinMediaSKN, and of course, our other social media platforms. Have a fantastic Friday. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Do what you have to do to keep yourself clean. Understand it is a personal responsibility, individual responsibility. Stay safe. Give thanks for life. Have a good one. See you guys tomorrow.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Hold on, stop. Think about the drink before you take a drop. Read up on the label on the back. They say sign sugar, low and fat. But don't be fooled by that. Drink some water, share some love. Tell your body you're sweet enough. Drink some water.